Okay, everyone, this is my spoiler review of X-Men the Animated Series, Season 3, Episode 13, Savage Land, Savage Heart, Part 2. This originally came out September 17th, 1994. Make sure to hit that sub button or follow along on TikTok so you don't miss any of my X-Men content, which will be reviews of comics, shows, and figures, anything X-Men in general. So we get to see Storm fully unleashed here, which is really cool, and she's under Sauron's influence that has made her this way. And you see that they have this little running joke of Jubilee of the Jungle tries to stop her, and Rogue even laughs at the name, which I liked. It was a nice moment between Jubilee and Rogue, but Jubilee has no luck stopping Storm, obviously. What's cool about the connection of Storm to Garokk is that Storm's elemental powers feed Garokk. So the ground starts shaking at one point, and Beast goes, "Has Storm added earthquakes to her meteorological repertoire?" And it's just a stampede of dinosaurs that come towards the X-Men, so there's a lot of wild stuff happening in this episode. But Carl Lycos will explain that he hates Sauron too. This is how he gains the X-Men's trust, and we see that Lycos is actually a good guy. It's Soren that's the problem, and Lycos says he has to absorb Storm's power to stop this, and at least they can fight Sauron instead of Storm, if anything. You see, though, when he goes to absorb her powers, Rogue tries to pull Lycos away before he turns into Sauron, which doesn't work, but at least they bring Storm down for the time being. Like that connection of Storm to Garokk in this episode, I like there's a connection of Sauron to Rogue because they have the same absorbing powers, and we see when he tries to absorb Rogue, we see her face like become Sauron for a little bit, which was kind of funny, and it was cool too that they negate each other. In that moment, though, Rogue had heard Zaladain's name in his head, so this is where Kazar connects the dots and says, well, wait a minute, she said she's a high priestess of Garokk, and now he's thinking this rock they're worshiping and this Garokk figure is a bad idea. What's also cool is when Storm finally wakes up, she senses nature is out of balance. I like that she can even sense that, where her connection to the elements in nature. It's cool to kind of say lines like this for Storm. Now, she says there's evil in land that needs to be destroyed. That's obviously Garokk, but you see she goes to zap the Garokk rock, but then pushes Rogue, so then you're like, oh no, so Storm starts going berserk again, and Beast has to sedate her again. There's so many moments in the X-Men that Beast gets definitely underrated how clutch he comes through with his smarts. There is some lines, though, with Sauron that are just, like, so funny looking back. Like, when Sauron goes to Zaladain, he's like, rally my troops, and he goes, are you deaf, woman? Like, it's just ridiculous. But Garokk captures him for the time being, and we get Garokk's backstory. Now, what's cool about this sequence with Garokk, it's like you could play the Saw music with Jigsaw explaining his twists in one of the Saw movies in this whole sequence, because you get all this information of what was really going on, his evil plan. But you see that at one point he ruled the Savage Land, and then the High Evolutionary defeat him, which is cool seeing that now, because with current MCU, you see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 had the High Evolutionaries villain, so it's always cool when you see a character like that pop up in another form. But the High Evolutionary calmed the raging elements of the Savage Land, which he was feeding off of, and banned him to being the stone. But then it's cool because it connects to the season 2 finale where the X-Men fought Mr. Sinister and Sauron in the Savage Land, and that Storm, when she released her powers here, it started awakening Garokk in the stone. Then he reveals his master plan was to have Zaladain bring Lycos, direct him in the direction of Storm, but also the totem she put on his neck was what was pushing him towards that connection to Storm. And that his master plan is to connect to the magma that's under the Savage Land. Now, you also see with Storm talking to Rogue, she says, don't let me go, restrain me, when she wakes up. And Rogue says, and I told you to let loose now and then, shows what I know. So it's a nice payoff to the episode before when she said that exact line of Storm when they were riding horses. Now, Garokk rises out of this mountain, and he's even more powerful. What's also interesting was Garokk actually makes the cabin that Storm was in into stone, and it's triggering her claustrophobia, so it makes her snap and really unleash again. She has all these amazing powers, Storm. I love Storm, and I love when she does the winter frost on him. Then she tries the hot sun, but at the end of the day, this is actually empowering Garokk. This is what he wants. Beast tells her, though, to stop through the walkie on her badge. I love this. She just takes it off and basically puts him on mute. So then we get to finally see Garokk become his full form when he gets that power from the magma and the volcanoes. But this is where it all comes back to Sauron and his redemption, right? Where he's not even trying to redeem himself because Sauron in his own right is nuts. But he in his need wanting to rule the land, goes to absorb Garokk's power, and it just makes him bigger, and it's like this moment of like Godzilla versus Kong here, and they just blow up. That's one of my criticisms of the story ending on that, though, because it's a two-part, and it's kind of just a little lame to me that that's it. Like, they just blew up when you had them big together about to fight. It wasn't the most interesting or exciting resolution to the battle. And it's kind of funny when Garokk in his stone form says to Zaldana as she awakes, "I was so close." But you see Carl Lycos is awakened, and Kazar lends his energy. This is a nice moment. I like this. And he says, "No mutant energy to tempt you. The presence of Sauron will haunt you no more." What I love about this character of Sauron, and I really love about his human counterpart, Carl Lycos, is that it really is just this tragic story behind him. And imagine even there just living where he can't even really be near mutants, or he'll just become this monster. But he rips off the Garokk totem and breaks it, which was a nice touch as well. And then we end the episode with Storm and Rogue, and Storm feels guilt. She's like, "How can you ever forgive me?" But Rogue obviously understands it and says, "You were under Sauron's influence." And then Storm says, "All these years of caution and denial to finally unleash my true feelings. I liked letting go. Never have I felt so free." It's a weird line to me to put right at that moment, because she's like quickly switching from guilt of what happened to like instantly relishing in the feelings of feeling free. So it was just too quick to me how that went from one to the other. Maybe she was already thinking that, yes, but the way the line transitioned there from one state of mind to that, I thought was way too rushed. But it's a 20-minute show, so I get they're trying to get all this stuff and they want to touch on it, because they have so many storylines they want to cover, you see in this season. So this isn't my favorite episode. It's one of my least favorite I've watched so far. So I'm going to give this one a 7.6. I like moments of it. Like I said about the reveal with Garokk's master plan was really cool. But at the end of the day, I just felt like as a part 2, it really didn't have as much weight to it that part 1 even had that got me invested in this Savage Land story. So I just think it's a very forgettable episode, but I liked it, and I always love any time with Storm, but it really could have hit harder, especially that final line with Storm. Maybe that was even just addressed more throughout the episode, that way of thought. So let me know what you thought of this episode down below. I love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment. I try to respond as many as I can, and please hit that sub button. This is a brand new channel. I can use all the help I can get, and I'll see you next time.